Well, I had a request to do a walk-in or a ride-in on the quad. Dad said he did one years ago with this very camera. He doesn't know where it's at, so I thought I would do another one right now. This is the gate. This is what you see when you pull in, and you know you've reached paradise because you're at Kamp Therapy. Boy. I think that mount's not going to work. I think that's going to shake like crazy and it's not going to give a good picture, so I'm going to remove it from this particular, from this particular spot, and I'm just going to hang on to it. We'll go like this. Could not have asked for better weather this weekend. Actually, it's Wednesday, so weekend, weekday, whatever it happens to be. This spring, when him and I came up, this corner was pretty well covered. You can see some of the brush there. It was pretty well covered with blowdown. There was a bunch of blowdown trees. Made quite a mess all the way around this corner. We got the bear, we got Mama Bear staying in there. I thought there used to be a cub climbing that tree. I'm not sure what happened to him. This is where the deer cross, because the sign's right there. It says deer crossing, so this is where they cross. They have to cross. I don't know if they cross there or not. We do see tracks on this road quite a bit. So they cross various spots throughout this route in. You go down that road, that is the rye patch right in front of the cabin. We used to drive in that way, and then we decided that wasn't such a good idea driving over the rye patch, so we opened this up back here. Nice little path. And then up here you got to watch out, because this is where the old farts cross. And we're coming around the corner, and this is our view from the cabin when we pull in. This is when we know we're going to have a good weekend. I think we got all the mowing done for the weekend. Looks like the boys are still chopping wood. Oh, they're all sweaty now. Move the trailer on me. And that's the ride in. Camp life. I don't know if you can hear it, but in the distance there is a chainsaw running, which is very common for up north. This is what we refer to as the bear blind, and there's not much left because our project for the time that the boys and I were up here was to tear this apart, and we're going to rebuild a blind here. It was just kind of a three-sided blind kind of thing. Didn't have a roof or anything on it, and this spring Dad and I were up here and we were walking around, and Alex's blind is in that direction. And there's a whole lot of deer crossing that happens right in here. There's a little bit of a valley, goes down into a swampy area. and they either go to Alex's blind or they go in between Alex's blind and John's blind. There's a Y right there that they cross at, and neither one of those guys are seeing them. So we thought, well, you know, this would be a great place to sit so that we could maybe catch a few more crossing. This blind, yeah, we're gonna need to bring the chainsaw back. Got to do some clearing out here. Definitely got to build that blind up. I like the elevated idea. I don't know, just me. I'm not like a gung-ho hunter where, you know, I got everything figured out, but maybe I like tree forts. So got to build this up. These supports are pretty solid yet. These are a little sketchy. We did bring some boards up, so we'll see what we got and what we can configure in here to build a base and make it sturdy and strong. And like I said, obviously we've got some growth around it that needs to come out, because I need to be able to see down in that direction. So once I get this figured out, get some of this out, then I can work on brushing some of that out. I think also right now, the next portion, I'm going to do just a drive from here. I'm going to drive over to Alex's, and I'm going to try to drive back by John's feed pile. We can't drive right to his blind, I don't believe. So, and then maybe back to, I don't remember what one that one is. Jake sat in it last year. It was John's first blind. Maybe it's number 3. I don't remember. I'll just do a drive through. I tried to mow all the way back there, but there's a pretty wet spot right in there, and I could not even get the mower hardly turned around, so there's no way I was getting through it with the mower. So we'll do a drive-by. Yep, this was one of our projects. Got it done. So like I said, tomorrow I was going to work on it tomorrow. I was going to come back tomorrow morning and get the boys working on it, and they wanted to get it done today, so we knocked it out, and now our chores are done. Except I still hear that chainsaw, so we still got firewood going. I would say at some point Alex was back here, and that looks pretty faded, so it's been a while. I know he was back here today, but with the Dr. Pepper can laying around, he's been around somewhere. We've not used this blind in quite a while, but I do think Dad mows back here. It got quite overgrown, and this whole area was quite overgrown already this year. I ran the mower this year, got this area chopped down. I got a tube that we got to cross right here. There's water flowing through. I think that was washed out a little bit this spring. This is what we refer to as the M blind. We call it the migration blind, because they happen to move through here later in the season. And if you watch down that way and down this way and then down in the swamp, they're moving quite a bit through there. That blind we were just at is up on the other side. There's a low spot right there, kind of flows through where we cross that tube, and then up on the hill beyond that, on the ridge there, is where that other blind is. This has been a pretty good blind. There's we put a little bit of feed down in that area, corn barrel and stuff, whatever we're legally allowed to do that particular year. And we've it's been a pretty successful blind. A lot of times later in the season, Dad is a lot of times the last one up here, and he'll be the one out here sitting in this blind, and he'll get a deer out of here. So been a good producer. This particular trail actually is the border of the property it goes down to, and if you cut in that way, you can get into John's blind that way. I don't know if he still uses that route or not, because I know that when I go in a different way, and I don't know if he can get his quad back there or not. I'm not even going to try. This is the ravine, the low spot that they cross, and that blind, that first blind was up there, and then Alex is over there. And there's a lot of times where we see tracks like that we don't see the deer of in between that blind, and then John's blind is over here. So there's a lot of deer that cross in this area that don't get seen, and we're hoping that being up on that ridge over there, we can see some of those deer coming through. Call that the Y. It's kind of a hub to go to all the different, well, not all of them, but to go to the different blinds that we have. There are a couple tree stands set up there, and in the fall they get hunted a little bit. John's blind is back in that area, and on my way back maybe I'll drive through and you can see where he feeds and stuff, and maybe we can actually see his blind. And we got kind of another little trail that just loops in through there, so we can get feed in there. It gets a little bit wet and messy up in here. I got the lawnmower stuck back here earlier. I think this thing is four-wheel drive. I don't know. I thought it was. Yeah, I'm in two-wheel drive, so yeah, we got a little bit of a water issue right here, so there's no way the mower was coming through here, not with me on it. Maybe in my younger days I would have tried, but you hit that age where you just don't want to spend the rest of the day fixing your mistake. We like to get down here and mow all this. It makes it a little nicer to walk back here and everything. Got quite a few trees down along the way that I'm gonna have to clear out. Brush out a little bit. Oh, there's corn feeder down on the ground. So either we had a high wind that knocked that down, or a bear. We've had that happen before too. I don't want to drive over this, so I'm going to try to go around it. Maybe I'll try to grab that on the way back. Got a nice tree stand right there. I do believe there's been some deer shot out of that in bow season. And this is the blind. I believe Jake fixed this one up last summer, maybe the summer before, and ended up sitting in here. This blind has a lot of potential. There is a lot of traffic, and when you look right straight down through there, there's a lot of traffic down through there. It looks like there's cleared out through here, but quite often, you know, we see deer tracks and everything right through there. This is on the, would be the east end of the property, and the deer do travel this way through here. So this was John's original blind, and like I said, Jake fixed it up this last spring, or one of these last couple years, and I know he sat there this year. So Pretty sure he sat there this year. And my memory's getting old too, so. Now, I would generally stop and grab this stack of wood that's here, but I'm going to try to grab that barrel. If I can't get the barrel, I'll grab that wood, because the barrel got pretty beat up. The timer on it and everything got knocked off. I don't know exactly. I would have to say that if I had to guess, I would say that was probably a bear, but it's still all right here, and a lot of times a bear will just chase it all over the place. So I don't really know how that barrel was hooked on that tripod either. Is it still hooked? It is still hooked. I'm going to grab this stuff and take it with me and let Dad know what's going on back here. That way this stuff's not sitting out in the elements. Alright, see if we can get through that mud hole one more time. Really don't like not having a foot shifter. This could get real messy real quick. Cut in and do this loop around John's area. I did get the mower in on this side. I couldn't go through, so I came in this way as far as I could, and then I went around and came in the other side as far as I could. Got a little bit of grass growing back here for the deer, and there's if you look real close, you can see his blind back there. I will say that there has been many a deer shot out of that blind. Oh, there's some deer tracks right there. They were looking for him. They were saying, "John, where are you?" See, you can't do that with a lawnmower. You can't just drive over trees and stuff with a lawnmower, so a little easier with the quad. It's kind of nice, this little drop-off area, because then if, like, let's say Jake is walking back, he doesn't necessarily bother the deer that may be working their way in across there or into that feed pile. And we're back out to this path. See, we went in down there and we just did a loop and we came back out right here. I think there's a fan on this quad. It's getting a little warm, so we're gonna head back to the cabin. Not getting enough airflow. I don't know if this one's liquid cooled or not. Alright, so we're at the Y. Just to recap, if you go that way, you go to the bear blind, which is where I'm building the blind this year. If you go that way, you go to the M blind, and there's another one beyond that that was my original blind that we're refurbishing this year. And then the one I just came from goes to John and Jake's blind, and this is like the hub. This is where we all walk out in the morning, and if we're walking out at the same time, because John goes out way earlier than anybody else, but we separate here and say, hunt well, have a good trip, and stay safe. And I didn't come up this path on the way I started at the bear blind. But this is the path that leads back to the cabin. And I think Dad originally wanted to block this off enough to make this into a pond, and that's a lot of work that we just didn't do. And I think originally he wanted the cabin sitting up there looking out over this, which was going to be a pond, but then the thought was, well, what if something happens here and we've got this really nice cabin there, how are we going to get to it? So I think, not that it's in a bad spot, but I think we have a really good second choice. This is our water supply. We have to come down here and pump water like the pioneers did. And just so we're not driving through the path of where we're enjoying ourselves, we come around the backside where we have a little bit of storage area. And we're back up to the cabin. Alright, so that was the tour of the blinds, and that was 3 of them. Dad's is actually pretty much straight back that way. When we go back there, you walk back this way, but he's got a quad trail that goes down that way. I went down at this spring, and you know what? Let's go down that one while we're doing video and moving. And this goofy quad. I mean, you know me. I am early 80s, mid 80s motorcycle tech, and this is what, an 07 or 08. It just doesn't make sense. Here, I'll shoot the path now. Boy, alright, the tube's still in. You can see the tube right there. Good thing it's in, because that would be a sloppy mess if it wasn't. I don't think I'm gonna mow this anytime soon. It's pretty wet. Try to avoid as much of this as possible. Like I said, in my youth, I'd have went right down through the middle of that. I know it's not very deep, but it does also make a mess of the quad. And I know it's going to sit up here for another month or so, because he's leaving it this week. The limb down. And this, a little bit. If you look right down there, there's a deer blind right down there. This is the rye patch, and where any feed that we're allowed to put out gets put. I sat there this last season, saw a lot of deer coming this way through here, coming this way into here. This is a pretty good spot. This is I believe the northwest corner, and I will say there has been a lot of deer harvested out of here, if I'm not mistaken. It's a little bit different scenery back here. Oh, he's got a deer blind or a tree stand up there. It is a little bit different as far as the trees and things, so it looks a little different. So when you're out and you're looking at, like if you're sitting at the M blind and you get bored with the scenery, you can always come over to this one and sit, and it is a big change of scenery. The foliage and trees and all of that, it just has a different look to it. It's always nice to be able to move to a different blind you get bored of looking at the same stuff. Sometimes certain blinds see more action, so somebody shoots a deer out of this one, then they get to go sit somewhere else, and somebody that didn't shoot a deer has the option to sit here. You know, I'm still in 2-wheel drive. This quad's doing pretty good. And it is a Honda, so we have an untested Yamaha back in the pole barn. The camp quad. We replaced the Honda with it. That poor old Honda was definitely seen better days. The Yamaha we got's about the same vintage, but it's in a little bit better condition, so it will be serving duty up here soon enough. Alright. Looks like there's some beer drinking going on up there, so I think I'm going to have to go join them. I don't know if they're still chopping wood or not. So that is a complete tour of the blinds that we primarily use. We got Jacob's back in that corner, John's right about in there, Alex goes way back there in the M blind, and then the bear blind, and then Dad's blind is back here. We always figured there would be some deer shot out of this area, but there hasn't been. I think because of the activity that goes on, I think the deer don't necessarily travel through this area. So, well, like I said, I see some beer drinking going on, so I'm going to have to go join in.